Welcome to another episode of Speaking of Speaking. I'm your host, Kelly Charles Collins, and today we are going to be talking about, speaking of speaking, we are speaking about what is your expertise? So I'm going to give you 8 questions is going to help you discover your unique expertise. And the reason I wanted to do this episode is because when I was transitioning from the full time practice of law to full time entrepreneurship as a speaker, keynote speaker, and corporate trainer, there were so many things that I could speak about. I had decades of experience as an employment lawyer. I was a criminal defense lawyer when I first started. I taught the police academy and the corrections academy. I was a mediator and an arbitrator. And as an employment lawyer, I know all about discrimination, retaliation, and wage and hour, and just so much stuff. And when I decided that I wanted to be a speaker, it was overwhelming to think about, well, what am I going to really speak about? What is the topic that I was going to put out into the world? And many of you might be having that same challenge. The clients that I work with are generally really high performers, high achieving people, generally women, who have done so much in your life, both professionally and personally. You have experienced things in your life that you feel that this is the thing that you're supposed to talk about, or you've had conversations with people and they're like, oh, you should share that story. Like you should be telling that to the world. But sometimes that's not the thing. The things that we know and that we have been doing all of our adult lives, or that thing that we've experienced that we're like, oh, this is a thing that I want to go out into the world and this is my area of expertise. It's not necessarily your expertise. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't come into play. It doesn't mean that you can't leverage those things. But what we have to truly understand is, what is our deep level of expertise? What is that thing that if people asked you any question, you either know the answer or you know how to direct them to a person, place, or thing for them to get the answer. It's not the thing that I always tell my client, it's not the thing that is Google level, Googleable, or chat GPTable. It is that thing that is so unique to you in the way that you communicate it, that in the way that you teach it, that people will say, yes, that is Kelly. That is Tracy. That is John. That is Mary. That is, Keisha, whatever it is, that they know that that is your unique expertise. Caveat. None of us is creating anything new under the sun, right? So we're talking about leadership, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about finance, we're talking about DEI, we're talking about communication, we're talking about speaking, we're talking about sales, we're talking about the same overall topic. The way in which we talk about those things, the way in which we deliver will differentiate you. And the way that you differentiate yourself is to understand what is your unique expertise. So, when I was coming into this business, I have this expertise as a lawyer, and specifically, most of my expertise as an employment lawyer. So, again, I could talk about a lot of things. I hired a coach, and she was talking to me about, so what are you going to speak about? And I used to go to these association meetings and people are, so what do you talk about? Well, I could talk about, and that's what I would say, I could talk about this and this, and then they would look at me like I was crazy because they were all in there. Well, I talk about this. They had their thing. And at the time, I didn't really know that this thing was called, your signature talk. And so, I would be in these meetings and people would be asking me, like, and every week or every month that we had a meeting, I'd say, oh, I could talk about this. It was always something different. And then I was meeting with my coach, and I said, oh, I got it. I got what I'm going to talk about. And I have this list of 9 topics. Yeah, I had a whole list, 9 topics. And I said, this is what I'm going to talk about, these 9 topics. And I was so excited. I was very excited about these 9 topics. Now, listen, I had been, practicing lawyer for decades and a trial lawyer, and I would have 100 cases at a time. And I had to, know those cases and be prepared to try those cases at any moment and deliver and ask questions and, do my opening statement and my closing argument for the jury. So I was like, light work. Nine, nine, light work. Until she told me, no, that is not light work. Kelly, you're going to have to create PowerPoint presentations for all of these topics, and you're going to have to be able to, sell all these topics and do all the things. I was like, mm, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. It was just too many, but it just didn't seem like it was too many. But there's so many of you out here who you were just like me. You have that many. You may have even more or worse. You don't even have a list of topics. It's just whatever the event organizer says. Can you talk about that? Oh, yeah, yeah, I did something like that a long time, or I can go look it up and I could talk about that. That does not put you in the place of being an expert or a thought leader. If you want to make money in this business, you have to stake your claim. You have to have an expertise, and you have to show up as a thought leader. You'll hear me talk about this sometimes. I call it the what I have determined is what I call the professional speaker hierarchy. And it's 3 levels. You have speakers. Speakers are those people that you see out there and they're just regurgitating content, or they're just telling you something. They're just giving you information. They don't necessarily have any deep connection to the information. It's just, can you talk about this? Yeah, sure. I'll put together a PowerPoint and I'm going to give you the information. So they're giving you content. Speakers share content. Then you have experts. So that's the second level. Experts are people who share content, but they also give you some context. So, a framework, an environment in which you can understand the information that is being given to you. They didn't just read it on the internet or read it in a book or get it from a coaching program that they were in, and now they're just giving you somebody else's information. They have no real connection to it. They have no contextual basis for being able to communicate this information to you so they can. But experts, that's what speakers do. Experts actually do have context. They do have an environment in which you can understand the content that they're providing to you. And then we have our thought leaders. Thought leaders provide content, context, and connection. Both connection, that they are connected to the information. They've really analyzed this information. They understand the information. They've had personal, professional experience with this. So there is some deep connection to what it is that they're sharing with you, but they can also connect you to the information. They're helping you to connect the dots, right? When a speaker just throws out a whole bunch of stuff, you're like, oh, wait, what does that mean? How does that apply to me? Wait. Right. And even when an expert does it, yes, I've given you an environment to kind of understand the information, but you really don't understand, how did that apply to me? How do I apply that out into the real world? What is the connection that you're trying to make for me? On the other hand, a thought leader does all 3 of those things. They provide you the content, they provide you the context, and they provide you the connection, both on their end, that they are connected to the information, and then also connect you. Someone who has a deep level of expertise and understands their unique expertise can rise to the level of being a thought leader or an expert, right? But you really want to get to the point where people look at you as a thought leader. A thought leader is somebody who can influence others, right? I'm not talking about being an influencer. I'm talking about somebody who has influence, right? So that when you speak, I'm going to date myself. Remember that commercial when E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens? That's a thought leader. You want to be that person. You want to be that when people see you, that you've put out a video or you've written a post or you've done a newsletter or you're going to be on stage, that people are like, oh, she's going to be there? Oh, he's going to be there or they're going to be there. Oh, mm-hmm. I'm going. I'm going to invest my money. Oh, they have a coaching program. I'm investing. They having a retreat. That's what you want from people. So you want to move from being a speaker, the way and to being a thought leader. And the way that you do that is to really understand what your unique expertise is. So I said that I had these 9 topics, and she was like, no, ma'am, we are not doing that. I had another coach who was like, yeah, she's right. So I had 2 coaches at the same time. Like, she's right. And you can't have 9 topics. And I said, but I can't get it down to 1. If you know me, you know I'm always doing something and I got to have a lot of things going on. It can't just be 1. So she said, I'll give you 3. I'll give you 3. So we looked at the 9 topics to see what we could pull together, what may have been just something that I could talk about, but doesn't mean I should talk about it. And I'll do another video on actually how to find your topic, but I just wanted to give you this context. But like looking at those 9 topics, really understanding where did my true expertise lie? What is it that I really wanted to spend my time, energy, and resources and capital, right? My intellectual capital putting out into the world. And from those exercises and really just working through this process and continue to work through this process as my business grows, as I grow, I came up with this thing that I call the SPEEAK Method. Now it's spelled SPEEAAK. And yes, I can spell, but that's the SPEEAK Method. Now it's actually a PDF, so I will drop a link in the show notes so that you can actually get the document that you can use, because remember, we learn and do around here. We don't just learn, we learn and do. So I'm going to go through the 8 questions or the 8 topics or the 8 sections, whatever you want to call it, the 8 things that you can analyze, reflect on, and really hone in on to determine what your unique expertise is. It's not necessarily the thing that you've done all your life, but it is based in that. So, for example, for me, I was a trial lawyer and I tried cases. I speak now, but I don't speak about the law. I don't speak about employment law. But I do speak about things. I used to more, but not as much anymore. Talk about unconscious bias. Why? Because that's related to the idea of discrimination. It's part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, I did not want to be a DEI speaker in terms of title, not what they call in DEI these days, but whatever. Um, but I didn't want to be under that umbrella. I wanted to do unconscious bias. So it's really understanding where your skills lie and some other things so that you can understand what is your true expertise and how can you then position yourself more powerfully in this business to go out and make money. So let's get to it. First things first. First things first is skills. What are your skills? All of them. Think about it really deeply. We always think about, oh, I have good listening skills, I have good writing skills, but think about all of the things that you do in your job on a daily basis. What does it require you to do? Does it require you to analyze information? Does it require you are you a good thinker, a critical thinker? One of the things as a lawyer, when we go to law school, they really don't teach you how to be a lawyer. They certainly don't teach you how to run a law firm. What they do teach us how to do is to think critically. They teach us how to review information, analyze that information, synthesize that information, right? To reframe things. So I am excellent at listening and reframing and analyzing, critically thinking about things. I'm also really damn good, excellent, I might say, at reverse engineering. Now, if you were to ask me or ask somebody their skills in a job, would they necessarily put reverse engineering? No. but I want you to start thinking about what are the skills that you have. Think beyond the regular, right? As Pliers says, we ain't regular. You ain't regular. So since you ain't regular, I need you to think about what are all the skills that you have. Talk to ChatGPT if you're not sure. Just say, hey, these are the types of jobs that I've had. These are the things that I've done in my life. And think about it outside of just your profession. Like, did you work with kids? Did you start a nonprofit? What did you do? And ask chat to help you. What type of skills does it take for me to have done those things? And chat will give you skills. So first thing first, right? What are your skills? Second, what are your passions? What is it that just lights you up? What are you passionate about? One of the things I'm passionate about and that just lights me up is watching women just get it, get how brilliant they are, show up so powerfully. That is a passion of mine. I'm also passionate about things like French fries. Very passionate about my fries. The reason I say that in just like a kind of joking way is that I want you to think about passions different from purpose, which we'll talk about next. Passions are things that light us up, but they are things that can be fleeting. They're not necessarily the thing that's going to make us wake up in the morning, roll over, at 5 a.m. and jump out the bed because, I'm passionate about. I'm not doing that, right? Purpose will get me out of my bed at 5 a.m. Passion, not necessarily so. So I want you to think about, what are you passionate about? What brings you joy? What lights you up? Think about those things, because when we are doing this work, especially as entrepreneurs, and it gets hard, when we don't um, lean into those passions, it really takes something away. One of the things that I found in entrepreneurship for me is that I found that there are places where there wasn't joy. Like I was losing the joy. So I'm always on this thing, like what makes me joyful? Like what really, makes me happy? Because those passions will keep me engaged, right? Purpose will get me out the bed. My passions will keep me engaged. So, passions, what are you passionate about? Ask yourself that and write that down. Third thing, second P, is purpose. What is your purpose? Why are you here? What is it that you are meant to be doing? Who are you meant to serve? Like, what is that thing that drives you? That thing that will get you up at 5 a.m. in the morning when you are truly a night owl like me? Right? What is that thing? For me, I know that my purpose is to be the light for others to stand in their greatness. And because that is my purpose, everything that I do, my unique expertise is making sure that everything that I do, every service that I offer, every product that I create, all the things that I talk about are grounded in being the light, right? Making things available to people, making sure that you understand that there is a way and that you can stand in your greatness. That's my purpose. What is your purpose? Be able to articulate it like I did, that my purpose is to be the light for others to stand in their greatness. What is your purpose? Because it becomes the point of view for everything that you do. So if what I'm doing doesn't somehow show up as a light for others to stand in their greatness, then I don't need to be doing it, because I am now operating outside of my purpose. I am misaligned. So you want to know what your purpose is, right? So all of the things that I do now, the things that I speak about, the things when I shift, when I do things and I shift, it's all because I'm trying to make sure that I stay in alignment with my purpose. So that's the third question, thing, topic for you to look at. Fourth is the first E, which is education. And for education, I'm talking about formal education, informal education, structured, unstructured, webinars, master classes, things you learned on Google, things you in chat talked about and it enlightened you. I don't care. What have you learned? right? What have you learned about this thing that you want to talk about? Where have you learned it? How have you learned it? Think about that. Think about, I started my college career at 16 years old, and I was in fashion merchandising. That was my associate's degree I got in fashion merchandising. My bachelor's degree is in retail marketing and management. My master's degree, my MBA, is in international business management, and then I got my Juris Doctorate as a lawyer. So if you think about all of those things are education. And while I was doing fashion merchandising, never ever thinking that I would want to be a lawyer. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a bank lady or a truck driver. Never wanted to be a lawyer until I was in graduate school and a friend told me that he was going to go to law school. That's when that came up, right? But now, when I'm talking about speaking and I'm talking about signature style, all of that stuff from fashion comes into play, marketing comes into play. When I'm talking to businesses and really understanding how businesses work and what drives people in businesses, my international business management degree comes into play. So, all of the things that we've done, whether they seem to make sense now or not, really go back and look at your education, both formal and informal education. I was educated as a mediator and as an arbitrator. I had to go through classes to become those things. So that's, formal, kind of structured, but it's not your associate's or bachelor's degree. It's a certificate, but it still counts because it taught me things. So again, going back to skills, right? I know how to negotiate. I know how to listen to both sides and issue an order. So again, I have to look at all the things, and I want you to do that. Look at all the things so that you can answer these questions fully, because it will help you to understand what is it that you are capable of doing, and so that people, and when I say people, I'm talking about you, really, so that you understand your own brilliance before you're able to communicate it to other people. The next E is experience. When I say experience, I'm talking about both professional and personal experience, and I'm talking about firsthand and secondhand experience. Professional experience, the things you learn at your job, the things you've done at your job. Firsthand, you've done it. Secondhand, you've witnessed it. For example, as a lawyer and representing organizations, in their trials and in mediation and arbitration, all of those things, there are things that I know and that I have experienced or that I have witnessed that didn't involve me personally, but as counsel for these companies, I can speak about it, right? I can speak about, when we had a trial, my last federal court trial, which was 2 weeks down in West Palm Beach. And the thing that sunk us, one of the things that sunk us, was an email that an HR person had written, and though it didn't mean what he, like, the meaning that was being taken away from it, it was not the meaning, the intention when it was written. That email was a beast, right? And so I can talk about, when I'm talking to, HR folks or businesses, and talk about the fact that, listen, everything doesn't belong in an email, because this is what can happen. That's secondhand knowledge. I didn't write the email. I didn't cause the email to be in the trial, but I do know all of the consequences and all the things that happened because of that email. And therefore, I can speak about it from a level of experience. Same thing with personal experience. We often discount our personal experiences, the things that we've done in our life. Perhaps you're talking about perseverance and resilience and overcoming. And those types of things may be, you may think, well, that doesn't have anything to do with, leadership, but it does. You can share that story. You can share the pieces of that story that are relevant, riveting, and relatable to, those are my 3 R's. I'll talk to you about that when I talk about signature talks. But those are the types of things those are the types of experiences that give you credibility. When you're looking at your education and all these things, but especially when you're looking at your education and your experience, these are the things that allow you to feel confident and credible to deliver on this expertise, to say that you actually have this expertise, to declare yourself an expert. Speaking of which, you don't have to wait to be crowned. You can call yourself an expert. I know people think it's arrogant. Let them. Let them think it's arrogant. Because if you don't think you're an expert, who's going to think you're an expert? And I did not come to this willingly. When when I was transitioning, I refused to call myself an expert. My sister got in my tail and she was like, "You need to call yourself an expert. Until you do, nobody else will. Nobody's going to recognize you as that. And until you really claim that, you're not going to show up in that way." And she was so right. The minute that I did that, it really gave me a boost to just think, no, I'm an unconscious bias expert. What? What you said? No, I am. Right. And because I had done this work, I already knew that I had everything to back it up. Right. All the things that I had done in my life helped me to back that up, both professionally and personally. So really think about the personal experiences. For example, my TEDx came out of some of the things I talk about in my TEDx came out of a personal experience that happened with my son, right? That didn't have anything to do with me in my profession. It was a personal experience. But now that TEDx has gone on to make me tons of money because I was able to deliver that TEDx from a personal place and as a thought leader in making content, context, and connection. Okay. So it's really important for you to think about personal experience and professional experience from a firsthand and a secondhand level. The next one is A, which is the awards and achievements. I want you to think about all of the awards and the achievements. Why do I say awards and achievements? Because they're different. Awards or accolades are public recognition. It's things that people have given you. Speaker of the Year, Entrepreneur of the Year, Business Baddie, or first place, best salesperson, or financial advisor of the year, lawyer of the year, whatever it is. Those are outward third party validations. Those are your awards. Achievements. Achievements are more intrinsic, internal things that you have accomplished. It's your accomplishment. For example, one of my accomplishments was doing the 3-day 60-mile breast cancer walk, right? Many, many years ago. My mom's a breast cancer thriver. And so, that was one of the things that I did. Another thing that I did was to start a 50c3 nonprofit for breast cancer to raise money for breast cancer. It's called the Pink Ribbon Runway, and host events to raise money. I raised thousands of dollars for breast cancer research and care and treatment. That is an achievement. If I look back at that achievement and I go back and break it down, I will also find skills, right? So it took skills to figure out how to do my nonprofit. I did it by myself, all by myself, right? How to set it up, how to apply for it, how to get the status. It took skill to develop the event and figure out what the event was, plan the event, get all the people to come to the event, market the event, all the things. So if I go back and look at those achievements also have skills. They also tell me what my passions were. They also align with my purpose, right? It also is a reflection of the things that I've learned through my education and my experience. All of these things come together, and this is how you determine, like, what is your real expertise, right? So you want to look at your achievements. The second A is advice. What do people always ask you about? I'm going to caution you on this one because there are things that people ask you about all the time that may not necessarily be the thing that you want to be known for and go out into the world. So what you want to think about is, If it's not the thing that they're asking you about, the topic that they're asking you about, but there is the reason that they're asking you. They could ask anybody else, but the reason that they're asking you about this is because they trust you, they trust your judgment, they trust your ability to listen. So I tell people that I listen to what you say, I listen to what you don't say, and I also listen between the lines. It's your ability to take in the information and reframe. It's your ability to help them really break down what it is, that they're experiencing. It may not be the topic, it may be who you are. I know that might hit a little different, right? It may not be the topic, because they could ask anybody the topic. They could ask ChatGPT the topic. They could Google the topic. The reason that they're asking you for that particular advice is because of who you are, who you show up as for them, and your ability to do something about whatever they're experiencing. And so you might, when people are asking you advice, again, look at, it might be the advice, and that might be the thing, right? That's your expertise, but it might be your skill set that they're looking at. And so you want to really think about that. I sent a questionnaire, and you could do this. I sent a question out to some of my former clients and then people who knew me, to ask them, like, what was it about me? Like, why did they want to be, why did they choose me? Or like my clients who were from my legal career, I asked them, what was it about me that they enjoyed working with me or that they found about me? And I learned so much. And one of the big things that came out of, but and then what I did was I put it in a word cloud so I could see what really stood out. And one of the things that stood out is that people see me as their trusted advisor, right? As their trusted advisor, they see me as competent. They see me as somebody who they that has confidence and that they can listen to and that will help them. But trusted advisor really stood out. So when you think about when people are asking you advice, it's not necessarily that it's the topic, it's that they trust you. And to be a trusted advisor is extremely important, especially for someone like me as a speaker, as a mentor, as a strategist. That's really important, that people feel that they can trust me, that they are safe in my spaces, that I create safe spaces. So really, start to think about these things in a more in-depth way than just, oh, well, what do people always ask me about? Because that might not be it. And then K, the last thing, this is, what do you know that you know that you know? Right? What is that thing that you know about you, that can't nobody mess with you on? Right? What is it that you know that you know that you know? And what is it that I know that I know that I know in this space in speaking? What I know that I know that I know is that nobody teaches experts, leaders, speakers how to take what's in their brain and create an intellectual masterpiece, one that converts, one that helps you to really stand in the power of who you are, like me, because I created a framework to be able to do that. What I know that I know that I know is that if I got you, I got you. If I care about you, I care about you. What I know that I know that I know is that my purpose is to be the light for others to step into their greatness. So I want you to start thinking about, what are those things that you know? What I know that I know that I know is that women are powerful at their core. And if you understand that about yourself, you'll know that you'll, like a weeble wobble, you'll get knocked around, but you'll never get knocked down, because our core is the thing that holds us together. Our core is the thing that holds us straight, our spine, our core, right? So think about, what is it that you know that you think about it this way. What is the hill that you're going to die on? What is the hill that you will die on? That is the thing that you know that you know that you know. So this exercise is really important for you to take some time to do. Don't just do it as a throwaway. And like I said, I will drop the link so that you can get the PDF and you can have it all in one place. But just to go back through before we end today, skills. What are your skills? What are your passions? What is your purpose? What education do you have, formal and informal? What experiences have you had in life? What awards have you received, and what achievements, what accomplishments have you had in your life? What advice do people ask? Like, what is that thing that people are always asking you? And what is that thing that you know, that you know, that you know? That's it. If you work through those 8 areas and really understand it, will help you to hone in to what is your actual unique expertise that you can then attach to a topic that you want to be known for and you want to be paid for. So go to the link, get the document, let me know, comment, let me know what you think about SPEEAK, the SPEEAK method. I call it your receipts. These are your receipts. Let me know what you think. What was your aha moment? What was your takeaway? If you have a question about it, let me know. Also know that in our weekly newsletter on Saturdays, I give you additional weekly insights. It might be a deeper dive on some of the things we talk about on the podcast, or maybe something that I just think about that I think you need to know. Sometimes I share behind the scenes. There's all kinds of goodies in there. So beyond the podcast, go to sosnewsletter.com. That link is also in the show notes to sign up for our newsletter. I want this to be a conversation. So the way that you can converse with me on these topics is through the comments in YouTube, or if you're watching this podcast somewhere else, in your reviews, and also in the newsletter, because I have an Ask Kelly section in the newsletter. So that's it for now. Go figure out what your unique expertise is so that you can cash flow what you know. Until next time, take care. Thank you for rocking with me for another episode of the Speaking of Speaking podcast. Remember, around here, we don't just consume, we implement. If you're ready to cash flow what you know, you have got to take action. Make sure to check the show notes for any links or resources that I mentioned. And if this episode brought you any value, which I know you got something out of this, right? If it brought you any value, do me a quick favor, subscribe, leave a review wherever you listen to this as a podcast, and let me know what's resonating with you. What's your aha moment? What's your biggest takeaway? Your feedback will help me to make this show even better. And one more thing. If you know someone or a few someones who need to hear this, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with them. Share it with a bunch of them. And until next time, remember, your voice is your superpower.